First, I'm going to talk about the strategy for my solution, and then I'm going to show you the code. Now, I said before that a bad strategy would be to start at the front, and then when we find a palindrome, try to extend it by extending onto the end. Why is that bad? Because just knowing that the first characters of a substring is a palindrome doesn't tell you anything about expanding it by adding characters onto one end. But there's another way to look at it where it does work. If we start in the middle, then we can expand. And then every time we move out, we are gaining some information. So let's say if instead of starting here, we started here, and we say, is C by itself a palindrome? Well, yes, it is, because every one character string is a palindrome. And then, instead of going only forward, we go one character in both directions. And now we're looking at B, C, B, and say, is that a palindrome? And yes, it is. Now we can go out again in both directions. A, B, C, B, A. Is that a palindrome? Yes. And we keep on growing. We keep on growing the solution out from the middle in both directions. And we keep on going as long as we can and find the longest palindrome that's centered on one of these positions. And as soon as we find something that's not a palindrome, let's say if instead of A here there was an X, then we can stop. And no matter how long the string is, no matter how many characters there are here and here, we know that nothing centered on the C is going to be a palindrome that's any longer than that. And so we can eliminate a lot of the work. And that's the advantage of doing this. Now, what about the starting positions? Well, we got to start with every character being the center. And then we also have to start with between every character being the center. So, maybe the longest palindrome in a string is just a 2-character sequence. If we only looked at the first one and then went out to the side, we wouldn't find it. If we start by looking in between them, in other words, start not with B, but with the empty string, then when we move out in both directions from the empty string, then we check BB. So that's my approach for the strategy. If you didn't get the question right, why don't you try it again? Try to implement this strategy before you look at my solution. Now I'll show you what I did. So the key to this function is the grow function. How do you grow a potential palindrome from the middle out? And so grow is going to take a text, a start and an end position, which are either, the end's going to be either 0 or 1 more than the start. Then we keep on going until we hit the end. So while the start is greater than 0, the start of the string, and while the end is less than the end of the string, and while they match, while the character 1 to the left is equal to the character 1 to the right, but we allow for one of them to be in different case. If that's true, then we grow by expanding the start to the left and expanding the end to the right. We keep on doing that as long as we can, and then we return the start and the end. So that's the grow function. That'll find you the longest sequence that is centered on a particular text with a particular start and end. And then longest subpalindrome slice just goes through all the possibilities. So it tries to grow for every possible start and end location, and then we just take the maximum length out of all those candidates, where the length of a slice is just the difference between the two. Now we do that, we have our test, we hit run, and it says test pass.